All right, back at the Young Turks for another day. Okay, we got a lot of stuff for you guys. I'm smiling now. I'm in a good mood. But we got a fighter show today. So yesterday there was 4 different stories of Republican snowflakes getting their feelings hurt and crying. Today we got a lot of story of fighters. So wait till you hear me on Deutsche Bank. Oh, the Democrats are the worst. They're the worst. And anyway, I'm so frustrated. We'll get to that later. But buried in one of these stories, not that one, another one, is a little old lady who Donald Trump tried to steamroll, and he messed with the wrong lady. Guy, you're gonna love that story. And then the fighting continues all the way through the 3rd hour, where we have maybe the 2 toughest guests we've ever had on the program. One's a cage fighter who's now running for Congress as a very strong progressive, and the other is Ojeda. Jeez, Lord mercy, this is gonna be a strong show. And speaking of strong, we tried to raise $100,000 for hosting a climate crisis debate / town hall. I was hoping we could do it eventually, but it was ambitious. We did it in 24 hours. So tyt.com/town hall. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna try to make this as good an event as we possibly can. And by the way, some people are asking, hey, debate or town hall, you know, what's going on here? Super legitimate question. As I said from day 1, minute 1, the whole point is to try to get a debate, to get them all on the same stage together. We are perfectly aware that the DNC rules do not allow that. We are trying to break the DNC blockade. And so it is an ambitious project. So we're working on moderators, candidates, groups that we're gonna work with as we speak. If you wanna keep on going there, tyt.com/town hall, that would be great. I believe we're past $125,000 now. So you guys are amazing, best audience in the world by a factor of 1,000,000, okay? So let's go do this thing together and let's kick some ass together. And I wanna enlist you guys in also on another important project today that isn't about money. It's about taking action against corporate Democrats who are stooges for Trump. All right, now let's get started. All right, what do you got?
All right, and I just want to mention we're at 129,400.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jeez, Lord mercy. Keep it rolling, brothers. Oh, by the way, the Wolfpack film done. Passed $50,000 earlier today. You guys are amazing. So they have enough money for that, and they're gonna go forward. Best audience in the world. We do the show together. Let's do it.
All right. Donald Trump is diverting hurricane relief funds and funds for the military for his border wall. This was a big story that broke yesterday, and we have some more details today on how this is supposed to go down. According to the NBC News reporting on this, the Trump administration is pulling $271 million in funding from the Department of Homeland Security, including the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Disaster Relief Fund, that's FEMA, to pay for immigration detention space and temporary hearing locations for asylum seekers who have been forced to wait in Mexico. Before I give you some more details, I just want to note that this money is actually separate from the $4.6 billion Nancy Pelosi willy-nilly gave Trump and then turned around and criticized the squad for being against. Let me continue. ICE would gain $155 million, all from FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. The Department of Homeland Security will lose $116 million previously allocated for Coast Guard operations, aviation security, and other components in order to fund nearly 6,800 more beds for immigrant detainees. Also, real quick, combined with existing space, the funding would allow ICE to detain nearly 50,000 immigrants at one time. And remember, this is the logical and natural next step after the Trump administration essentially said that they would no longer follow through with the Flores settlement and allow for migrant children to be held in and imprisoned indefinitely.
Okay, this is of course as another huge hurricane bears down on Puerto Rico. We're gonna get to Trump's comments on that in a second. But first, I wanna go to a hilarious quote from one of his spokespeople, Hogan Gidley. He said, the Democrats know that this money isn't being diverted from anything that could be used for recovery efforts or preparedness efforts. Now, let me reiterate where they took it from. FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. Yeah, okay. So they definitely took it from funds that are meant to help victims of hurricanes, and it would definitely affect the things that Hogan Gidley just said that it would not affect, because he works for a pathological liar who sends them out to lie every single day, and that's what Gidley does. It's a preposterous claim, but they live in an Orwellian world, so they don't care. They could say the exact opposite of the truth and not lose any sleep over it.
So understand that Congress voted to allocate this funding to these various organizations or government organizations. And then the Trump administration has decided to take that funding and place it wherever they'd like to do, or wherever they'd like to place it. And at the same time, there's absolutely no conversation happening with Congress. I mean, we're supposed to live in a democracy, right? Where there's a system of checks and balances, and he's just completely bypassing that, because why wouldn't he? He's an authoritarian, and we have Democrats in Congress who refuse to do anything about it. I mean, Nancy Pelosi isn't doing anything about it. What's the point of having Democrats control the House if they're gonna sit back and let Donald Trump just take money away from FEMA, which is desperately needed right now? That hurricane's gonna hit Florida. I'm very curious to see what Trump has to say about that.
Well, if it hits his voters or white people, he might be slightly interested. Okay, we're gonna get to Puerto Rico, like I said, in a second. But I wanna double down on what Anna's saying. Previously in America, you could not just take money that was assigned by Congress in law, that the president signed into law, that's how things work, and just say, no, I'm just gonna take it and use it for something else. That's not what happens in our form of government. Now, these are the same Republicans who pretended to care when Obama was doing executive orders. They're like, oh my God, executive orders are unacceptable. Now Trump has crushed Obama's record on executive orders. He's done far more at this point than Obama had ever done. And now he's going around saying, well, I don't care what Congress appropriated the money for. I'm just gonna take it from there and we'll use it somewhere else. Now, on top of the crimes that he has committed, very, very, very clearly, this is a clear violation of the Constitution. So it's not one of those things that's arguable. You can't, well, all right, then Republicans, really, we have this rule now? Okay, what if we have a progressive president? Can he just say, you know what, I don't like the Pentagon's budget. I'm gonna move it all towards the Green New Deal. All right, maybe not all of it, I'm gonna move half of it. I'm gonna move $350 billion over to the Green New Deal. Do we have a deal? Is that the new rule? I can live with that rule, you want that rule? No, all of a sudden you're gonna start crying and go, oh no, it's unconstitutional. Well, this is unconstitutional. God damn it, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, are you ever going to do anything? And so they're like, nope. Schumer today, as in their usual way, put out a strongly worded statement saying, oh, this is unacceptable and a breach of his constitutional duties. Wow, except it's not unacceptable because you just accepted it. And you know what you do? If they had strong progressives in charge, but you are moving the money that we appropriated in a legal way and you're doing it in an unconstitutional way. We're starting impeachment proceedings this afternoon. I'm not going to let you destroy the Constitution and say that the president can move any money he likes despite what Congress said. That is not how our government works. And if you're an idiot, ignoramus, who doesn't know the Constitution, we'll read it to you in your impeachment proceedings. TYT.com/impeach, okay? But it doesn't matter. I mean, look, that's a petition I love and I want to work, but it's not gonna work because Nancy Pelosi is the greatest protector of Donald Trump in the country.
Exactly.
That's just a fact.
Yep. You're right. I want to read a quick quote also from Senator John Tester. He's a Democratic senator, and he says, quote, this is graphic 6, Congress has already deliberated DHS's request and appropriated the highest ever funding for border security and immigration enforcement, which passed on a bipartisan basis and was signed by President Trump. So he's trying to argue, look, we've given you the funding that you asked for. Why are you doing this? This is wrong. And he's very much concerned about Hurricane Dorian and the damage it's gonna do to Puerto Rico and Florida. Well, mistake number 1 was playing this bipartisan game and giving Trump exactly what he wants. Don't give him anything.
Yeah.
Period.
So,
why are they playing games with him?
Hey, can Democrats, if you're not gonna do anything, why don't you shut your mouths, okay? So if you're gonna just sit there and complain like, oh, I can't believe Trump's doing this. You control the House where impeachment begins. So spare me your crocodile tears while you let him run roughshod over the country. So now let's go to Puerto Rico. Hogan Gidley, that jokester, says that Trump has, quote, moved heaven and earth trying to help Puerto Rico. All right, I'm gonna give you Trump's tweet in a second. But Trump himself has also said, and by the way, I'm the best thing that's ever happened to Puerto Rico. I mean, who says that? What kind of I mean, if you had a person like that in your life, you'd banish him. You wouldn't be like, oh, God damn it, is he really? He's our uncle, the crazy uncle who comes over at Thanksgiving and says, I'm the best thing that ever happened to this family. Who says stupid stuff like that? And after you constantly insult Puerto Rico and then turn around and say you're the best thing that ever happened. I mean, come on, this guy's a goddamn embarrassment, obviously. So let's go to the tweet. Trump says, wow, yet another big storm heading to Puerto Rico. Will it ever end? Congress approved $92 billion for Puerto Rico last year, an all-time record of its kind for anywhere. Okay, let's break that down. First of all, of course, as always, lying about the $92 billion, invented number, not true. Okay.
Let me break it down for you. Okay. So The Hill reported that in July, Congress actually allocated roughly $43 billion for Puerto Rico, but the island had received less than $14 billion as of May. Trump signed a bill in June providing another $1 billion in assistance. Yeah. So that's it. That's what they've received. The number is nowhere close to what Trump mentioned in that tweet, $92 billion.
So $92 billion, pull it up, throw it in there. Who cares? Pathological liar. Okay, but that's, to me, the less interesting part of the tweet. Yet another big storm heading to Puerto Rico. Will it ever end? It sounds like he's blaming Puerto Rico.
He is blaming Puerto Rico.
What an idiot. What an unbelievably stupid person. By the way, there is something to blame. It's called climate change, because it makes the storms more significant, more severe, and there's now more of them. And so if you want the storms to end, of course, hurricanes overall will never end, but if there'll be less of them and they'll be less extreme, you would take action against not Puerto Rico that's getting hit by the storms, you ignoramus. You would take action against climate change. Instead, you sit there and go, I don't know. Will these storms ever end? I wonder where they came from. After you declared it a Chinese hoax. So look, everybody who's ever supported Donald Trump, look, no, that's not fair. If you change your mind and you've seen more information and you didn't follow politics that much, you've now seen him, you go, okay, I've had enough. That's fine. You still support Donald Trump after all this? I mean, you're a blithering idiot. It's unbelievable how stupid his followers are. Oh yeah, the hurricane, it must be Puerto Rico's fault. When is it ever gonna end with Puerto Rico and getting hit by hurricanes?
You know what, why don't we ask the same question when a hurricane hits Texas or Florida or one of the red states where the majority of his voters reside. Let's ask that same question and see how they feel about it.
What's going on with Oklahoma? Why all the tornadoes? Goddamn Oklahoma. Well, why won't they stop the tornadoes? I mean, come on, man. We're having conversations with the dumbest people on the planet. And one of them is the president of the United States. And by the way, again, if you're a Republican, you go, but he won. You're right. That's why we're so pissed at the establishment Democrats, who are the biggest idiots and losers of all. Lost to this buffoon, lost to this buffoon. And now say, oh no, we're so smart, you should pick Biden. And then turn around and go, well, resistance. And then they won't even resist them 1 inch. The establishment Democrats are so pathetic that they make Donald Trump look smart.
All right, let's move on to some other news today. I'm glad you're in a good mood because I'm not, and
no.
I'm trying to keep it under control.
No, wait, look. I said the stories are making. Wait till you get me on the stories.
I don't know if 2 angry people would be good for the show.
Okay, well, buckle up, brace for impact.
Well, let's move on to the rest of the news. There have been a number of protests at various facilities that are imprisoning and detaining migrant children and asylum seekers. And so the CEO of Geo Group, this is a for-profit prison that runs and operates most of these facilities, is upset about these protests and actually sent out an internal email explaining to employees what's going on and how they're not the bad guys, they're actually the good guys. There's all sorts of myths about them. Now I'm gonna read from the actual email, which TYT Investigates obtained. Great reporting by Ken Klippenstein as always. And here's how it goes. George Zoli is the CEO who wrote this. On August 12th, 2019, our corporate office in Boca Raton was protested by Never Again Action. Never Again Action is a mobilization of different affiliated Jewish organizers whose goal is to shut down ICE. This new organization sprang up after Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez referred to ICE processing centers as processing centers, my apologies, referred to ICE processing centers as concentration camps. So she was mentioned and she was blamed for these protests, but he doesn't go into the treatment of these migrants or the 24 migrants who have died in these facilities. He doesn't talk about that at all. He just talks about AOC and how it's her fault that these protests are taking place. Shown the Geo Group memo, a spokesperson for Never Again Action told TYT, direct action works.
Damn right it does.
I love it.
I love the protesters, love them.
They're so good. So more from the email. Again, this is George Zoli from Geo Group. False narratives and deliberate mischaracterizations were the basis for these recent events. Misguided individuals intimidated our employees and defamed the American flag at a time when we recently commemorated the birth of our nation and the 75th anniversary of our landing at Normandy.
Okay, that's hilarious. So these guys, you've seen what happened to Never Again Action. One of the employees in one of the detention centers runs over them with a truck, right? And then, of course, the Republicans came out and started blaming the protesters, saying, well, I mean, what were they doing, attacking that poor truck while sitting on the ground? They deserve to be run over and have their legs broken, etc. So now the guy's saying, can you believe that they are, attacking the flag on the 75th anniversary of Normandy? Where did Normandy come from? We're talking about private prisons and detention centers and immigration. And he's like, and on the 16th anniversary of Arbor Day, can you believe they did this? What? Where the hell did that come from? I mean, it's just so pathetic. And on this 243rd day past Valentine's Day, I can't believe that they would do this. Let alone how many anniversaries have there been of Mother's Day, and yet they have done this to the flag. What flag?
Okay. By the way, they didn't defame the flag.
Of course they didn't. The guy's making everything up.
Yeah. So apparently some protesters had taken the American flag down, and he considered that defaming the American flag. Besides which, 24 people are dead because of these facilities and the fact that they've been brutalized and neglected in these facilities. Again, 6 of them were kids. So, I mean, look, I get their hurt feelings over the American flag, but American lives or I should say lives should be more important. He doesn't want to talk about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an obvious diversion tactic, and Never Again Action didn't do that anyway.
Right.
So he's talking about Never Again Action and AOC, and then refers to a completely different protest where someone apparently took down an American flag. And they're like, oh, there's 12 people dead here. Somebody took down the flag, and right around the corner from Labor Day. Can you believe that? Ignore the dead people.
So let me go to graphic 4. Organizations that have threatened our employees or taken violent action against our company have also directly used the same terminology as Representative Ocasio-Cortez, including concentration camps. Look, these protesters are Jewish Americans. Many of them are Jewish Americans. And so they understand what concentration camps are, which is why they have sprung into action. So to blame everything on AOC and to use her as a scapegoat rather than taking personal responsibility for the brutalizing of migrants is ridiculous. And also a spokesperson said, quote, "We don't play a role in passing criminal justice or immigration laws, and we have never advocated for or against criminal justice or immigration enforcement policies." That is a flat out lie. For-profit prisons in this country have not only pushed for tough on crime policies when it comes to undocumented immigrants, they have pushed for tough on crime policies when it comes to you, when it comes to me, when it comes to all Americans participating in non-violent behavior like smoking pot. Okay, they have a long history of pushing for and imprisoning nonviolent drug offenders. And in the case of migrants, let me just note, GEO Group spends at least $1 million each year since 2016 lobbying federal government on issues like homeland security appropriations.
In 2016, a GEO Group subsidiary contributed $225,000 to a pro-Trump super PAC and an additional $250,000 for the president's inaugural committee. What happened to lobbying us? Well, golly gee, I've got the vapors. I would never do that, especially not on the 75th anniversary of Normandy. Okay, no, Kenny Clips did a great job of not only finding the documents here, but also giving you the context of the fact that they in fact have done a ton of lobbying. So, and I want to thank the audience as always. You made our reporting team possible. They keep breaking these stories one after another after another. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez then retweeted this story. That's got 30,000 likes on it, and now being looked at by all the media, etc. And you guys made that happen. Without you guys, we wouldn't have Jonathan Larson, Ken Klippenstein, or any of the reporters we've ever had. And I want to say one last thing, which is doubling down on what Anna said. Guys, private prisons have a profit motive to lock up Americans. Right or wrong, it doesn't really matter as far as their profit motive is concerned. And they don't have a second code. Their only code is maximize profit. You know how that's how the markets work. So when you create a private prison, the only way to maximize profit is to stuff more people in those prisons. And if the people in the prisons are guilty or innocent, who cares? You're still maximizing profit. In fact, if you're not pushing for laws that are quote unquote tough on crime, if you're not pushing to imprison more Americans, right or wrong, you should be fired as the CEO of that group because you're not maximizing profit. And so they logically, in this insane system that we have, pour in millions of dollars to buy corrupt, largely Republican politicians, and if any Democrat takes money from a private prison, they should immediately be primaried and ridden out of town and tarred and feathered, okay? And when they cry and say, oh, are you gonna ruin our industry where we get to lock up Americans to make money?
Yes.
Goddamn right we are. We're gonna drive you right out of business so you can't lock up any more innocent Americans or any other people and have to treat them with this kind of outrageous system and centers that you have. Yes, we will not allow you to make money off of imprisoning and taking our liberty away from us. Hell no.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we have more news for you, including Donald Trump encouraging members of his administration to break the law.
Okay, guys, if you wait till you think this first segment was fiery, wait till we get to Alabama, Deutsche Bank, and Donald Trump's trying to take people's land. This show's explosive. We'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Cynical Angel says TYT investigates rules. Agreed, thank you. Victoria says CNN announced yesterday that they were hosting a climate change town hall with the Democratic candidates. Has TYT mentioned this? I think I mentioned it yesterday when they announced it. Today they announced more details, including that it's going to be 7 hours. Wow. So I think that's good. So what we're trying to do that's different is, first of all, we want to do a debate so they're on the same stage at the same time. We know the DNC does not want that. That's what got us mad in the first place and wanting to break that DNC blockade. So it's one thing when you have normal cable news hosts asking the folks one at a time these questions, and you don't get to compare and contrast all of their plans at the same time. And they're gonna have a framing of how are you gonna pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. We wanna bring real experts that you trust, hopefully have them on the stage at the same time and ask them those questions and drill down and get answers. So that's our hope and our desire, and that's what we're working on now, and you guys have empowered us to be able to do that at tyt.com/townhall. And if you're wondering why, like I said in the beginning of the show, why is it called town hall? We're gonna try for a debate, but if we can't get a debate, you guys gave us the money. We gotta do an event. So we'll still bring great moderators But I don't want to get there. I want to try for the debate, and I want to try incredibly hard to get that to happen and break the DNC blockade. All right, Morno Brown says, I just joined TYT and feel good. Feels so good. Oh, I like that. Like James Brown over here. Makes sense, Morno Brown. Okay, anyway, last one here. Mr. Lumberg says, saw your op-ed in the Washington Post this morning, Cenk. Let us dare to whisper of a dream, #2strong. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, check out my article about how progressives are gonna win the presidency in the Washington Post, and they actually printed it. So we broke through. Man, we fight for you guys every day. And so finally we got a progressive op-ed in the Washington Post. I wanna give them credit for running it and for you guys having my back. We tried for so long and so hard to break through and get an op-ed in the Washington Post, and it worked today. And of course, it immediately went to the top 3 in their opinion section because there's no other progressive op-eds. And so anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
All right, so just a few announcements. First off, Kirsten Gillibrand has dropped out of the Democratic primaries because she had no chance. And we're not doing a separate story on it because there's really nothing else to say. So I just want to make sure you guys know about it. And then if you're wondering, hey, where should I keep my money? Where can I do it ethically? Go to Aspiration. If you go to aspiration.com/TYT and open an account, TYT will add a little bonus to that, and it is a free month of TYT membership. So go to aspiration.com/TYT, sign up for an account, and then go to TYT.com/free30 to get your free 30-day TYT membership.
Okay, guys, last 2 things about that. One is, look, on converting companies into being good guys is a super long-term project. But I love getting sponsors that are actually doing the right things. And if that works, the free markets will eventually lead to companies realizing, hey, maybe we shouldn't do terrible things in the world, otherwise we're not gonna have any customers. So it's a long-term project, but that's part of it, and I love that you guys are participating in it. And last thing on Gillibrand, there's plenty I had issues with, her change of stance, etc. But her proposal on democracy dollars to create $600 for public financing that every citizen would get to allocate was actually a great idea, and I don't want that to slip away. And I want to talk about that more as we go along. And so she did contribute to this conversation in a positive way, at least through that, and that was significant. Okay.
Donald Trump is encouraging individuals who work for him and government officials to break the law. And he wants to do this in order to speed up the process of building the border wall, which he has conceded will not actually stop undocumented immigrants from coming into the country. He has conceded that, but he wants a win for his campaign. So again, he's encouraging people to break the law. So Trump has directed aides to fast track billions of dollars worth of construction contracts, aggressively seize private land, and disregard environmental rules. He has waved off worries about contracting procedures and the use of eminent domain, saying, take the land, according to officials who attended the meetings. He also has told worried subordinates that he will pardon them if any of these issues end up leading to some criminal issues, right? So if there are any potential wrongdoing, should have to break the laws to get the barriers built quickly. So he's like, look, go ahead and break the law, give me this win so I can have a better chance at getting reelected. And if you run into some legal issues, don't worry, I'm gonna go ahead and pardon you.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to some of the absurd and cruel parts of this fence building. But I want to address the taking the land and breaking the law part first. I'm going to quote the Washington Post here. Former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly would often tell administration officials to disregard the president's demands if Kelly did not think they were feasible or legally sound, according to current and former aides. So basically, Chief of Staff said, look, the president's an idiot. If he tells you to break the law, don't do it. You will be in a lot of legal trouble if you do that. So that's what the Chief of Staff used to say, but he's gone. We have another crook in there now. Is he still acting Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney?
Mick Mulvaney is acting Chief of Staff, and he does not challenge Trump or contradict him in any way. He is nothing more than Donald Trump's lapdog, really. Yeah.
And Mulvaney used to talk tough about Trump back in the day. Now he's an ass kisser who's in there. Oh, you want to break the law? That sounds like a great idea. Let's all do it together. And by the way, why do they even have conversations like this? I mean, in previous administrations, if the Washington Post broke a story about how the president ordered his subordinates to break the law, it would have been the biggest story of that presidency. Probably impeachment proceedings would have began, and it would be considered another Watergate. Now, it's just Wednesday. I mean, it's the president telling yet another person to break the law, and they think, well, it doesn't matter. The Democrats are never gonna hold us accountable. No prosecutor holds us accountable. No Democrat holds us accountable, even though they control the House. Pelosi said we could break the law, so let's just go break it. What is she gonna do? Impeach us? Loser. That's what they think of her, and I don't think that they're that wrong, because she's not gonna do anything.
She's not, no.
So, okay, now, eminent domain. I want you guys to remember that conservatives pretended to be against this. Remember, conservatives have actually no principles other than, the remaining conservatives, other than we hate the others. Whoever the others happen to be, Latinos, Muslims, gay people, trans people, it doesn't matter, we hate the others. That's their only guiding principle. They say, oh, we're for free trade. Now they hate free trade. They said, oh, well, we're for legal immigration. We're against illegal immigration, but we love legal immigration. No, they say now you shouldn't do any family immigration, and you should kill off most of legal immigration. There's another story about how they're gonna kill off birthright citizenship or a portion of it today. So they don't believe any of that. There's always a lie. And now eminent domain, they're like, the government with their jackbooted thugs coming in and taking private property. No way. Now they're like, oh, eminent domain. You gotta take people's private property. When the jackbooted thugs come, they're awesome. You have no principles, none. Give it up. Just say, okay, we're the party of hate and be done with it. Now, there's one other time that Donald Trump tried to do eminent domain.
And understand, eminent domain, like it means taking private property.
It's the government taking private property and saying, you don't have a choice, and we're gonna give you fair market value, whatever we determine that is, and we're done with you. And in this case, they talk about, oh yeah, don't ask them. No, they're done. You give them whatever money we want to give them and take them off their land. By the way, almost all those landowners are Republicans. What now? We did a story about a year ago or so where they were all crying. They're like, I didn't think he was gonna take my land. Whose land did you think he was gonna take, you goddamn schmucks? Your land's on the border. And you're like, yeah, build a wall, build a wall. So we need your land to build a wall. I didn't know he was gonna do it to me. I just thought he would hate others. Okay, anyway, back when Trump had a casino, he wanted to build a parking lot to hold limousines, literally, okay? So he thought he was gonna run over Vera Koking, who was a little old lady who had been living there since 1961. And she said, no, this is my dream house. I raised my kids here. Earlier, the founder of Penthouse had tried to build a casino there and tried to intimidate her. First, tried to give her $1 million. She's like, nope. He's like, $1 million for your rinky-dink house. So no, I like this house, I don't want to move.
She and her husband bought that house together. They raised their kids there together. At this time, she's a widow. It means something to her.
Yeah, so Bob Guccione then tried to intimidate her. He built a giant building next to her. He even bought the airspace above her house and built this giant structure above her house to try to intimidate her. She's like, I ain't going nowhere. So he then goes bankrupt. Trump comes in and Trump goes, no, I need the limousine space. Get rid of her, okay? And he tries to get the government to do eminent domain and take her property whether she likes it or doesn't like it. So she goes, no. First he offered her, by the way, in the process of this, they then offered her $250,000. She's like, I didn't take $1 million, I ain't gonna take $250,000. I don't know if you're hard of hearing. The answer is no, you will not take my private property. They go to court in 1994, takes a bunch of years, they come out, she wins, she kicks his ass. Then you know what happened? This is my favorite part of the story. So they built the Trump Plaza, it's there. Oh yeah, Trump Plaza, so what up, park the limo somewhere else. She saw Trump Plaza go bankrupt and then close down.
Let's make her Speaker of the House.
I know, man, I know, she's in her 90s now, but God.
She'd be more effective. Let's make her Speaker of the House.
Oh, she is an American hero, man, Vera Koking. She stood up to Donald Trump and she was in the House when they shut down his stupid ass casino.
Oh God.
God, I love her. God, I love her.
I do too. It's incredible. So I do want to get to other components of what Trump is telling people to do in terms of getting this wall built. First, let me just note, he's in a panic because the wall hasn't been built and he realizes that he hasn't actually followed through on any of his promises to his base. There's a lot of tough talk going on, but he hasn't actually done what his base wants him to do. And so for 2.5 years, he had no problem passing tax cuts for the rich. He had no problem doing things to enrich himself, but he abandoned his base and now he's in a panic. And so that's why he's telling officials to break the law to get the wall built. But one of the things that he's also focusing on is the aesthetic appeal of the wall. Yep. And so he is demanding that the wall is painted, or the fence is painted black. And the reason why he wants it painted black is because he likes the way it looks, but also it absorbs heat. Black absorbs heat, we all know that. And so it would be more difficult and painful for people to climb the fence. And then he also wants the top of the fence to be pointy and sharp. So it would cause as much damage as possible if someone does somehow manage to get to the top and climb that fence.
So there's 3 different ways that he wants to hurt immigrants trying to climb the fence. One is it's too hot to hold. 2 is the spikes at the end of each of the fences, so hopefully they can get impaled, I guess, that's his hope. And he wants it tall enough, and it's gonna be 18 to 30 feet in the different parts, so that if they fall to their death or serious bodily injury. So this is our president, guys. And the party of hate loves it. They're like, oh my God, these poor people who are running for their lives, desperate to get into this country for hope and opportunity like our ancestors. Oh man, it'd be great if they got impaled or fell to their death. That's the Republican Party, filled with monsters. So, and by the way, it costs so much more money. He's gonna waste a ton of money on that. Yeah. Before we get back to that, one more thing about Vera Koking. She eventually did sell the house when she moved. There was a mystery buyer, but it's a longer story and I wanna save it for the post game, but don't miss it. tyt.com/join to become a member. You get the last half hour of the Young Turks where we give you those extra stories. And Koking also said Trump at the time, back in '94, she called him a maggot, a cockroach, and a crumb. God, I love her. And when I saw who bought our house, I was like, no, really? So, okay, we'll save that for the post game, last half hour of the Young Turks, tyt.com/join. But back to how much it costs.
Exactly, so it's gonna cost quite a bit more to paint the fence black. And let's go to graphic 9. Trump has insisted that the barriers be painted black. According to internal analysis, painting or coating 175 miles of barriers will add between $70 million and $133 million in cost. Trimming the amount of fencing the Army Corps will be able to install by 4 to 7 miles. So the wall will actually end up being shorter and it'll end up costing a lot more money because Trump insists on painting it black.
Yeah, and by the way, sharpening the tips because they're not black already. So at one point, the military actually sent troops down there to paint a part of the fence that already exists because Trump demanded that it be black, and that cost $1 million. And that was a tiny part of the fence. And then they don't have tips, they're not spears, nor do they have heads on those spears yet. So you have to pay extra to actually sharpen the ends of all the fences. So that costs another huge amount of money. This is all taxpayer money. And so part of it is, I get it, he wants the fence to be harder to cross, right? And I'm sure conservatives will love that. Part of it is he's a child. And so they try to talk him out of it because of how much more it'll cost taxpayers. He's like, no, I wanted to be black, I wanted to be black. This is similar to what he did with Air Force One. They're like, okay, we're designing Air Force One. Someone made the mistake of telling him that. He's like, I want to be involved. They're like, why? Are you an aeronautical engineer and we don't know that? He's like, I own Trump airplanes. They're like, didn't that go bankrupt? Yeah, it did, but still. And so, you know what they had the child do? They had him pick the colors. And he said, oh, I made it red, white, and blue. Before it was just blue and white. I added the red. It's much better now. We have a very cruel child as our president. That's why I call him Joffrey Baratheon. I mean, it's nearly a perfect analogy. God, that is so sickening that is our so-called leader.
We got to take a break. When we come back, I am going to tell you how the Alabama Republican lawmakers are going after Ilhan Omar, and we will rage on that story.